It's an end of an era, and I've recorded this video so many times, but hopefully this is the last take. Right before Deltarune's chapters 3 and 4 are released worldwide. And I apologize that this video is not going to be as edited as the usual content I uploaded. I just want to get this video out and be sort of a time capsule for my thoughts and opinions before chapters 3 and 4 come out. To me, Deltarune is one of my favorite games of all time. And it is something that I've never truly had experience with a game ever before. Deltarune's chapter 1 came out like almost 6 years ago. I think like some crazy number like that. And a core memory for me is actually booting up and opening up the first game. I was like away at a dingy hotel. I wasn't at my house, but you know, me being a gamer, I had to bring my gaming laptop, and I was just lying in bed scrolling through my phone, and I see this notification that's like, dude, Toby Fox just dropped a new game. And so obviously I take out that laptop, put it on the little nightstand, plug it in, and I open and play it. And it was so new to me, I didn't know what to expect. Like, I got that survey program, like that whole like, do you agree to all the consequences or whatever thing that Gasser says. I didn't even realize that was lore relevant at all. I didn't even realize the Goner Maker was lore relevant. But playing chapter 1, that feeling I will never forget. Chapter 1 really helped to spark my creativity. That's how good it was. It was able to give me an idea of future creative works that I wanted to do and future characters that I want to create. And on top of that, it was just a really damn good chapter. But I don't think I'm the only one that believes that chapter 2 is really where the boom of Deltarune sort of hit. Chapter 1, we definitely did have a community. We definitely did have some fan discussions, theorizing, and a couple fan songs, as well as I think like a couple of AUs, not that many. But I think after chapter 1 came out, Deltarune wasn't really at the forefront of my mind constantly. But after chapter 2 hit, I cannot stop thinking about Deltarune. Chapter 2 helped to recontextualize all the stuff that we had from chapter 1 that we just didn't know too much about. We got to learn more about our main characters as well as important side characters that can come up. We got to introduce the Spamton, the GOAT, and honestly, I believe that Spamton did help to bring this community into the limelight and have it have the boom that it does now. Spamton just brought so much lore and so much creativity into the community. Like, do you know how many AUs and how many fan songs we have of Spamton in relation to Spamton alone? It's crazy. And obviously, how could I forget the weird route? A route that sounded like a creepypasta at first. And this is another core memory that I have associated with Deltarune, but finding out about the weird route only a couple days after release was mind-blowing. People didn't know what this was. People thought it was a myth, a legend, a rumor, and I had to test that out, see if it actually was true. And actually doing it on my own, in my own save file, oh my god, it was real, and it blew my mind away. Like, I thought our choices didn't matter, Toby, but I guess they kinda do. And of course, with all this new lore and recontextualization of stuff that we got before and new fan favorite characters that propped up and fan favorite characters from before now getting more attention, more time, it just meant that the Deltarune community was bigger and better than it ever was. And that, of course, led to a ton of theories coming out. And one of the key things in this era that makes it so special to me is that everyone in this time had a voice. It wasn't only the big players out there that was making theories and getting a lot of attention. It was also the little channels and people that just created a channel only talking about Deltarune. Those people were able to be heard. And we as a community were able to come together and have these discussions and was able to create a active community, one that I personally felt very active in, even though I wasn't really making any Deltarune content at the time. But with the stuff with the Spamton sweepstakes, we all came together to try to solve this sort of ARG that Toby had, as well as any new newsletters, information that comes up. It was so much fun. And all this inspired me to put myself out there, give my takes on Deltarune, my opinions, my little theories that I had. And obviously, as you guys probably already know, that helped the channel grow. And I can never thank you guys enough for that. It was wild seeing everyone comment, subscribe, like, and be active on my channel base and get these new eyes on me that were just so supportive and kind. And that little time in between me creating a video and chapters 3 and 4 releasing were some of the funnest time I've had to say, at least for me. However, with the release of chapters 3 and 4, we're coming to an end of an era. We're coming to the time where now we will get some answers to the questions that we had, the burning questions that we've had. We are going to be a little bit over halfway through the story that Deltarune is trying to tell. And obviously, in turn, that means that we're not going to have too much stuff to theorize about. It is a little bittersweet because we'll probably see a decline in the amount of theories and the variety of them. Like, I don't think we will get another Woody theory or anything equivalent to it, at least in popularity and scope and reasonability, after chapters 3 and 4 come out. And we'll also be getting a ton of new people into the community. People that only played chapter 1 and never played chapter 2 and fell off of Deltarune, or people that never even played the game at all. And this, the full release, will be their first time playing Deltarune. And with that, we're going to be getting change into the Deltarune community. There will be people that will not know about this era. People years from now won't know what a Woody theory is, won't know what an Azrael Dust theory is, won't know what a Seven Knights theory is, won't know what a device theory is. They're not going to know that stuff. And obviously many theories like this and others in the community are going to be disproven in Deltarune's chapters 3 and 4, which for me is what comes with the game. It comes with the territory. This is always bound to happen. But I just want to say to those that have made those theories in the past and continue to do those theories today, I just want to say thank you. All right. Thank you so much for giving me so much content to enjoy, new discussions to have with the people in my life and people that I've just met, and memories of this time that I will never forget. And to those that feel a little sad about having their theory wrong, I just want to say that that's not the end of your theory. Take that work, take that creativity, and put it into your own stuff. Make something new out of the theory that you once had for Deltarune. I can definitely tell you that Deltarune has helped me to create new stuff, not even related to Deltarune, and helped to give me the motivation to help improve my own creative works, my art, my writing, my videos, everything. So I just want this to be sort of a time capsule of how that era affected me and many others. And it definitely will be an era that I will never forget and will look on very fondly. But this isn't a sad video, all right? Because Deltarune's chapters 3 and 4 are coming out tomorrow. Deltarune is tomorrow. It is finally happening after so long. And I know that for the Q&A video that I did, many people submitted questions about my predictions for Deltarune, and specifically for chapters 3 and 4. So I want to make sure that you guys actually get the answers to that question before chapters 3 and 4 come out. So I'll be playing the clips relating to those questions right now. All right, so this question comes from Jack. Ignoring limitations from a game design perspective, what possible lighteners would you be excited for the most to end up in a Dark World, party members or otherwise? So for not counting the confirmed lighteners that we know 100% will be there, like Toriel and now Jockington, I guess for some reason, I'm honestly really excited to see Caddy go into a Dark World. There seems to be a lot of evidence that Caddy will probably join us in a Dark World, and I think it's setting up a similar sort of story beat as like Noelle and Birdley in chapter 2. So although I don't think like Caddy will have as big of a role in Deltarune as like Noelle does, I think we could get some possible insight into her backstory and her character that we didn't really get in the first 2 chapters that could possibly make her a fan favorite. Other than that, I think it'd be cool to have Mettaton join the Dark World. I don't know, I just feel like a Dark World design for Mettaton would be fun. As well as like maybe Mad Dummy. I think that would also be fun. Bring back the Mew Mew fight, that'd be funny. And I want Alvin to be in a Dark World too. I think that'd be fun. I think Alvin's an interesting character. I want to see what he has going on, and like his whole backstory with Gerson seems sort of important, so I want more insight onto that. And the church just seems like a perfect place for him to be, so if he was going to be in a Dark World, I think he'll be in that Dark World. If he's not in that Dark World, then we probably won't get him in one, which is kind of sad, so we'll find out in like a week or whatever. And of course, I want to see freaking Azrael in a Dark World. I think that's pretty much a given. I don't think too many people have talked about this, but like I'm pretty sure it's a fact that Azrael will fall into a Dark World once he gets home from college, you know? And that could definitely lead to some interesting character interactions between Chris, Susie, Azrael, and Rouse, question mark. That'd be really fun. So those are my picks for lighteners inside of Dark Worlds. What role do you think Toriel is going to play in chapter 3 of Deltarune? Me personally, I hope she will be a party member, but that's pretty high hopes. And this is from Som Rat. All right, so might be a little controversial take, but I don't think Toriel will be a party member. You know, I do think it would be cool, and I would love to see that, but I don't really think Toby would do that. And I feel like Toriel is supposed to be sort of similar to how like Birdly sort of functions in chapter 2, where, you know, she's just gonna be this like character that like runs around through the dark world and doesn't like stick with us the entire time, you know? Or I can honestly see her being like captured by Tenna, and she's like sort of like the person that we have to rescue in Undyne or Napstablook or whoever the police officer shows up in. They will be like the character that runs around during the entirety of the chapter. But yeah, I don't think Toriel will become a party member or will have like a super major role in chapter 3, but I do hope that we do get some interactions with her and Rouse and Chris and Susie at some point, because that's just some good character interaction that we just like need more of. So this question comes from Fourth Monado. What Lightworld characters do you think / hope will join our party in the Dark World? I think Caddy has a pretty good chance of being a party member, and I kept saying that, but with more and more evidence popping up, yep, I definitely can see it. And her having like some sort of dark magic ability, I can also see, you know, she casts some dark magic on the Darkners or whatever, and maybe that leads to like a different sort of weird route that we get, I don't know. But I don't think that we'll get like a super insane amount of party members in Deltarune. I think maybe like at most, like, you know, maybe one more after Caddy if we get Caddy, but I don't think so. And honestly, I could see that one last party member being Azrael, funny enough. I think that'd be kind of cool. You know, Azrael comes home, go into a dark world, and Azrael's like, Chris, let's go. And then Rousey's like, Chris? You're replacing me, Chris? And then Rousey turns into the angel. How big of a role do you think the characters originating from Undertale will play? And this question's from MB. So I kind of explained this in my big Deltarune video, but I don't think the Undertale characters will have such a big role to play. Obviously, they do have like some importance to the story. You know, Toriel and Asgore are literally the parents of Chris. I think that will definitely play a role. But like huge roles like them being creators of dark fountains, or them continuing to be involved with the creation of dark fountains and entering dark fountains, like Toriel like being in like multiple dark fountains, or like Toriel or Asgore being like party members and stuff like that, I really just do not see. But that's not for like every Undertale character. For the ones that are like more minor in Undertale, like ones that didn't get too many screen time, I feel like will have sort of a bigger role than they did in Undertale. Because like characters like Napstablook, Burger Pants, and obviously Gaster had some sort of moments and interactions that seemed like something more was supposed to be going on, but we just didn't really get that in Undertale. Obviously, I think like Onion Sun's main purpose now is to be the sort of cave diver. Burger Pants seems to be having a bigger role, you know, with Icy everywhere and all the like. And Gaster, I mean, Gaster's like the creator of Deltarune basically, so he's gonna have a huge role. But for the main cast of Deltarune, like Undyne, Toriel, Asgore, Sans, Papyrus, Alphys, and Metaton, I don't think that they'll have a huge role like how they did in Undertale, and will probably be like side characters. How many theories do you think there'll be on the first week after Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 releases? And this is from Gustavo MS from your Deltarune chapter 1 stream chat. Well, thank you, Gustavo, for watching the streams and for leaving a question. But anyway, how many theories do I think there'll be? A bajillion? Like, do I even need to like give an exact number? There's gonna be so many. Like, every single Deltarune theory and channel that has popped up in between chapters 1 and 2 will be making a new theory, analysis, discussion, all that jazz after the week of 3 and 4, including me. So there you go. It's gonna be like every single Deltarune channel on the planet Earth will be making a theory. This question comes from Butter. Do you think we will be able to beat the chapter 3 secret boss, or do you think they will be impossible for now? So I know we got from Sham that we know that we need the Shadow Mantle in order to beat the next secret boss. And we also got a thing for the new Spanthan sweepstakes that's like, no blank, no crystal. And I guess I want to give my original thought of when I first heard that from Sham, is I thought that they were talking about like the chapter 4 secret boss, because I don't think Sham would know that Chris would create a dark fountain unless they did, which is I guess true now. But obviously that's not really the case anymore, because we got the Spanthan sweepstakes thing that like is in the chapter 3 room, and you go into it and it has like the no crystal thing. But I do kind of believe that Rules is the one that stole the Shadow Mantle from Sham, I feel like it just sort of makes sense. You know, Rules is kind of like as a mischief sort of guy and goes around stealing all these like important items like the Thrash Machine and possibly the Shadow Mantle now. So, and Rules is in our pocket. So I don't think the secret boss will be like impossible. And I think we'll have to like find Rules in some way in chapter 3 in order to sort of get the Shadow Mantle back. And I know that like some people like believe that it'll be a whole meta narrative thing where maybe you have to go back into a future chapter and then go back to chapter 3 to have like this one item from a future chapter back in time so you can get the Shadow Mantle or something. And it's like, I like that theory. I think that's a cool concept as like a video game idea, but I don't know if Toby would do that because I feel like most casual fans wouldn't be able to do that, and they might just miss a secret boss when Toby might not want to like have them miss that because like secret bosses are a sort of big part of Deltarune now. So this question comes from Ronan. Do you think perhaps the police officer who turns up to the Dreamer house or Toriel herself could receive the same end as Birdly did in the Weird Route? Let me think about that for a minute. I definitely do see a possibility of the Weird Route sort of being in chapter 3. Obviously, it's not going to involve Noelle, but with the new Spamton sweepstakes pages and the importance and hidden of the chapter 3 sort of number on the chapter 5 page, it sort of implies that there will be a chapter 3 Weird Route that will probably be very different from the chapter 2 one, but will still have an effect on the story. However, I don't think it will be like a Birdly Snowgrave thing. I just don't really see that like immediately after chapter 2. I really don't see that. I feel like it would be some sort of like sequence break thing, but it's not gonna be like you kill someone, you know? I don't know, with the thing with like Birdly, it has to be a character that's like not super important to like Hometown and one that people can sort of dismiss for a reasonable amount of time. Like, you know, Birdly is a forgotten bluebird in the lore of Deltarune, so it sort of makes sense that people wouldn't be like searching for him if he's not turning up for like a couple of days. But like with like Toriel, Asgore's definitely gonna be like worried about that. Undyne, a missing police officer, people are gonna go crazy about that. Same with like Napstablook. If Napstablook's in that, if a missing police officer is like just gone, people are definitely gonna like notice that and be like actively searching. So that's why I don't think we'll get like another death in chapter 3. I think it'll be like a big sequence break, and maybe that has something to do with the Shadow Mantle and that theory that people are talking about with having to go to a future chapter and coming back or whatever. But that's my opinion on that so far. This question comes from an anonymous user. Do you plan on doing a first impressions of Deltarune's chapters 3 and 4? Make a video script well or / after playing the chapters? So I did say this on stream, and I guess I'll do that, but I don't know if this video come before or after, because maybe this video is already out. But anyway, I do plan to record, obviously, my first playthrough of chapters 3 and 4. You know, originally it was just going to be for footage, but, you know, I'll do a little audio sort of commentary as well, and maybe we'll just post a little highlights of all the reactions that I have to both chapters. And then after, I plan to do a more scripted video sort of covering all the information we got, what it means for the future, that sort of jazz, you know. But that will probably take longer than the reactions video. So, but that's the plan so far. So thank you very much for sending those questions. I'm glad that people actually wanted to hear what I thought would happen in Deltarune. But hey, that ain't the only predictions I got, because I got a list of my own little last minute predictions I want to get out of the way. And we'll throw in some hopes that I have for the future of Deltarune as a whole on there as well. So a hope that I have is that if the flower shop ever has a dark world, I think it'd be cool to have the flowers that turn into darkners that represent the human souls be a sort of Power Rangers type group. I believe that Mike will be a microphone being controlled by Tenna to broadcast their power and influence over the TV Dark World, and Mike himself won't be able to actually speak and needs others to speak through him, like a microphone. And also, here's a sketch of some Mike and Tenna designs that I made a while back, but obviously Tenna is not gonna look like this. I think that the secret boss of chapter 3 will be a film noir type character, specifically a detective. Image_friend will appear in chapter 4, specifically. Somewhere, I don't know where, but somewhere. I really, really want Toriel and Rousey to interact with each other in the chapter 3 Dark World at some point. Hopefully talking about the Dreamer family in some way. I think the chapter 3 cliffhanger will be Rousey leaving the party after finding out that Chris opened the Dark Fountain. I think that that during a weird route, either in chapters 3 or chapter 4, we will have Rousey try to shift the perspective away from Chris and onto a different character. But in this weird route, we'll be able to sort of take our perspective back, and we'll get to see what Rousey and Chris say to each other outside of our view. I really just want to know in these new chapters about Asgore and why he got removed from the chief of police in some way. I think that Mayor Holiday will appear instead of a police officer in chapter 3. She is a very hands-on person when it comes to the crime in Hometown, so it makes sense that she would appear. I really want a confirmation on if Chris is or isn't the Roaring Knight. Please just have a Dark Dirt in chapter 3 refer to their fountain creator as a knight or not a knight. Please, Toby, please. I want Tenna to be super evil, the most evil antagonist that we've had for a Dark World, and one that we have to destroy. We cannot take them back to Castletown. Since chapter 4 is basically taking place in the church, I really want Alvin to fall into the Dark World and be present in that sort of chapter and Dark World. I believe that Caddy will join the party in chapter 4 and fall into the Dark World, along with Jockington. And in chapter 4, we will have a weird route in which we have to kill Jockington. I also believe that Noelle will be in the Dark World in chapter 4. She is scheduled to go to church with Rudy, and I think that the church Dark Fountain will take place in another layer of a Dark World inside of a Dark World, at least at some point. Since Rudy is scheduled to go to the church, I believe that after Noelle goes to the Dark World and comes back, Rudy will be in a coma, passing out from being out of bed for too long. Noelle, after going to the chapter 4 Dark World, will finally realize that the Dark Worlds aren't dreams and are actually real. And I believe in chapter 4 we'll also get a confirmation on Dessa's backstory, Dessa's whereabouts, and hopefully we get an official sprite of Des Holiday. And I believe that chapter 4 will end off with us knowing that Azrael is going to be back in Hometown the next day. We already know that school is not happening the next day, so that means that this takes place on a weekend, and Toriel did say that Azrael's coming next week, and Sunday would be the start of a next week. So, and hopefully at some point in Deltarune, not even chapters 3 and 4, just overall in the game, we get some reference to a big theory in the community. It doesn't have to be a meme one or not, but just a theory reference in general. At some point in Deltarune, we will go inside of Sans' house, but Papyrus will be locked within his room, and we won't actually be able to meet him until later on. And if we ever do meet Papyrus, I believe he'll have a completely different design than the Papyrus from Undertale. I think that Megalovania will play against a fight with Rousey in the Weird Route, in which Rousey will have to absorb a Shadow Crystal and take an appearance very reminiscent of Azrael's true pacifist final boss fight. And I predict that we'll find more about Chris, and that eventually we'll be able to know what happened to them and why we control them in the first place. So that is my thoughts and opinions and predictions and hopes before Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 comes out. I just want to say once again, thank you so much to everyone that has supported me over all this new Deltarune stuff I've been doing, as well as the theorists out there that made theories and has continued to make theories, and all the talented Deltarune artists out there, talented Deltarune songwriters, talented Deltarune writers, and so forth and so on. You all have truly helped to make this a time that I will never forget and bring the community to life. So with that all being said, I'm going to be taking my 1 week long break from the internet to play Deltarune purely without any spoilers. But it's not the end, and I hope to see you all after I play Deltarune's chapters 3 and 4 and have something to say about it. So, adios, and bye-bye, everyone.